Hello, Macau to World Wide Web. I'm Herbert Ramos, and welcome to this evening's news report in English. Here's what's going on locally and overseas. A report was received in regards to the budget of the East Asian Games. Based on complaints received, the main concern was focused solely in its over-budgeting. The Commission of Audit says that they wanted to analyze and present suggestions regarding the government's work on the constitution of Macau, in which the local government owned 90% of the shares and the funding of the sports development owns the rest. The initial financial budget was 630 million patakas, mostly derived from public funds, and all the direct and indirect expenses coming from the games overpassed it at 4,400,000 patakas. The reports concluded that there was a lack of study which made the budget non-concise, as it was non-methodic, and that the financial management itself was unorganized. Macau, they said, did not plan the event properly and event derived from the budget. They also remained unclear and inconsistent with their organizing. In this wake, the budget was reinforced several times. It was in regards to the initial capital, which was at 12 times higher from the initial 630 million. Legislator Pereira Coutinho last year asked the Assembly about a detailed report from the Games. Just very recently, when he saw the figures, he says that he is not totally satisfied, as although they mentioned the financial managerial aspects of the event, no one claims responsibility of the problems incurred. He also continued that there was no need to create Macau since the Sports Institute had all the means to facilitate the event. He wonders if all the expenses were worth it, as it deeply affected public funding. According to Macau's Meteorological Bureau, Typhoon Cimarron, that claimed the lives of at least 10 people and remained the strongest ever to hit the Philippine archipelago, remain unmoved and will continue to do so for another 24 hours. The Bureau also says that these types of typhoons' behavior is unusual considering its mass. As further studies were made, the Meteorological Bureau uncovered that the cold front from the South China Sea has provoked the typhoon to increase its mass and slow down its speed to a near halt. The Bureau continued that these types of typhoon behavior remain unusual, since this point of the year is a transition stage from the summer to a cold front. Typhoons should be most unlikely to happen. Nevertheless, the signal number 1 is still hoisted over Macau. The typhoon is located 460 kilometers south-southeast from the region with a speed of 140 kilometers an hour. During the last few hours, it has weakened, so they rule out that this present status would remain stagnant. Typhoon Cimarron is under the influence of a cold and dry air derived from mainland China. Europe wants closer links with Hong Kong and Macau to help protect intellectual property rights and crack down on Europeans using the cities to avoid tax. A proposal released yesterday also calls for a host of relationships from customs, trade and finance to academic links. Funding should also be provided by the European Union to encourage these kinds of relationships to develop, says the document, which is entitled The European Union, Hong Kong and Macau Possibilities for Cooperation. Earlier this month, the EU named Hong Kong as a suspected destination for European tax cheats. The document lists stronger regulatory dialogue for finance as a goal, as well as strengthening enforcement of tax evasion, money laundering, investment fund regulation, corporate jurisdiction and accounting and financial reporting standards. Making it public yesterday, European Commission head for Macau and Hong Kong, Thomas Rowe, said about 80% of counterfeit goods in Europe pass through Hong Kong. The document also states that the EU wants to work with Hong Kong and Macau on the process towards universal suffrage. A Hong Kong government spokesman welcomed the proposal to enhance cooperation and hoped it would lead to more regular dialogue between Europe and the city. The spokesman said the government was also committed to the effective exchange of taxation information. More local updates. Information from the Statistics and Census Services shows that in the third quarter of 2006, the overall average daily nominal wage was 499 patakas, of which the average wage of skilled workers and semi-skilled workers was 517, and unskilled workers 327 patakas. Among the various occupations of skilled workers and semi-skilled workers, the average daily nominal wage of iron workers was the highest, reaching at 598 Macau patakas. The overall nominal wage index decreased 2.0% from the previous quarter. The nominal wage index of skilled workers and semi-skilled workers declined 0.7%, and that of unskilled workers went down 10.2%. In terms of occupation of skilled workers and semi-skilled workers, the nominal wage index of iron workers rose the most, up 23.8%, followed by plant operators and concreters and drain layers, up 7.4% and 2.7%, whereas that of concrete mold and slab carpenters registered the largest decline, down 12.6%. In addition, the overall real wage index decreased 2.8% over the second quarter of 2006. The real wage index of skilled workers and semi-skilled workers declined 1.5%, and that of unskilled workers went down 10.8%. Compared with the third quarter of 2005, the overall real wage index increased 10%, of which the index of skilled workers and semi-skilled workers rose 9.3%, and that of unskilled workers went up by 15.7%.
Meanwhile, in news overseas, Taiwan commissioned 2 aging United States-made destroyers this morning, the last major arms acquisition aimed at countering China's perceived growing threat since bureaucracy and partisan politics suspended new buys. The Kidd-class warships joined 2 already in service with the Taiwan Navy. The 4 vessels brought from the United States cost a total of $700 million.
The commissioning comes as the United States, the island's main arms supplier, increases pressure on Parliament, in which the opposition has a slim majority, to pass a scaled-down budget to more U.S. weapons. The budget has been bogged down in Parliament for 2 years by opposition lawmakers who say the package, which would include 8 diesel submarines, is too expensive and provocative. President Chen Shui-bian, speaking on the commission ceremony, thanked United States President George W. Bush for approving the arms sale in 2001 and highlighted the need for Taiwan to bolster its defenses in light of a growing military buildup in China. Chen's independence-leaning government has long sought approval of the arms funding, originally set at $18 billion, but now cut down to only around $190 million, as most of the rest is wrapped into the regular defense budget. According to Andrew Yang, the director of the Chinese Council of Advanced Policy Studies, Taiwan's purchase of the 4 United States-made Kidd-class warships will provide the country with protection and military strength. He also added that he believes that the United States will continue to pay attention to Taiwan's defense needs and will continue to address their concern about the unbalance of the military capability between the 2 sides. China has claimed sovereignty over self-ruled Taiwan since the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1949. Beijing has vowed to bring the self-governed democracy of 23 million people back under mainland rule by force, if necessary. The United States switched diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing in 1979, recognizing one China, but is obliged by the Taiwan Relations Act to defend the island. China last month took delivery of its 4th Russian-made Submarine-class destroyer, which is armed with anti-ship missiles, and has also bought 6 Russian Kilo-class diesel-electric submarines to serve in its submarine fleet of 80 vessels. China, which is also believed to be interested in developing an aircraft carrier, has more than 800 missiles deployed across the strait from Taiwan and is believed to be adding more at a rate of 100 per year.
Meanwhile, in the mainland, state media is reporting that at least 1 person has been killed and several others injured in a poison gas incident. Some of the injured are said to be in a critical condition.
20,000 people fled their homes to escape the leak of toxic ammonia gas from this fertilizer plant in the Hubei province of China. The gas escaped into the atmosphere when a pipe burst at the factory. State media reported at least 1 worker dead. Several other people have been injured, some of them critically. Chemical leaks are not rare at Chinese factories, struggling to keep pace with huge economic growth, often with a poor maintenance record. The latest leak has raised fears of river pollution as water used by fire crews to bring it under control seeps into waterways. Paul Chapman, Reuters.
At least 4 more Palestinians have been killed as Israel pressed on with its offensive in Gaza for a second day. Medics say 2 of the dead were civilians, as one Israelite says its troops are targeting only militants.
Wounded Palestinians arrive at hospital in the northern Gaza town of Beit Hanun, the latest victims of one of Israel's biggest military operations in the area in months. Medical staff say at least 4 more Palestinians have been killed. 2 are said to be civilians. One of them, a 75-year-old man, shot in the head as he brought his disabled son in from a balcony. Israel says it's not aware of the incident, but insisted its troops targeted only militants. Gaza residents say enough is enough.
This raid and the continued incursions deepen the hatred between us and the Israeli people.
The situation is difficult, and God help them, the people in Beit Hanun. Martyrs and blood every day. We have to be patient.
Israeli officials are again saying the Gaza raids are in response to militant attacks on the Jewish state.
The purpose of the Israeli operation is defensive in that we're just trying to protect our citizens. We've had, unfortunately, hundreds of rockets launched from the Gaza Strip, 300 from Beit Hanun alone.
The renewed conflict jeopardizes even further any hope for the resumption of Israeli-Palestinian peace talks. Some Hamas officials are warning talks over swapping a kidnapped Israeli soldier for Palestinian prisoners are also at risk. Paul Chapman, Reuters.
Day of the Dead. Celebrations got underway in Mexico City and the Caribbean island Republic of Haiti on Wednesday. Mexico City's Zocalo Square is playing host to 2 days of art exhibitions, dancing, and some artisan exhibitions. Officials are expecting over 3 million people to visit the Zocalo, the heart of one of the world's largest cities.
Skulls, altars, dancing ghouls. The annual Mexican festival of the Day of the Dead has all this and more. Mexico City's Zocalo Square is playing host to 2 days of art exhibitions, dances and concerts. The festival honors the departed and celebrates their lives. Families create altars to remember their loved ones and prepare special bread as an offering to the dead. The colorful celebration features 2 huge, brightly colored skeletons made by Mexican artist Hugo Pérez. Along with the skeletons, there are 25 altars and offerings from the various neighborhoods that make up the Mexican capital. Officials are expecting over 3 million people to visit the Zocalo, the heart of one of the world's largest cities. Pavitra George, Reuters.
Britain's Crown Prince Charles and Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, on their 5-day trip to Pakistan, visited Patika, a village near Muzaffarabad, capital of Pakistani Kashmir, on Wednesday the 1st. Patika, situated in the lower Neelam Valley, was badly damaged by last year's massive earthquake. It killed around 73,000 people. About 1,670 residents of the small picturesque village died in the quake, and 1,630 were injured.
Prince Charles and his wife Camilla arrive in Kashmir to see for themselves attempts to rebuild the region devastated by an earthquake just over a year ago. The Prince and the Duchess of Cornwall had already cancelled one leg of their tour for security reasons, but this visit was to be less controversial. The heir to the throne is president of the Red Cross in Britain. He was shown a primary health clinic set up by the International Red Cross. 73,000 people died in the quake, more than 1,600 from this village alone. A similar number were injured. 2 main access roads to the village were destroyed, so the injured had to wait for 5 days before the first rescue helicopters reached them. Donkeys and horses are crucial in this part of the world. The British charity showed the royal couple their veterinary hospital dedicated to helping horses and donkeys in the developing world. The Brook charity says more than 500,000 animals were killed in the earthquake, leaving many without a livelihood. The sedate visit was a far cry from the angry scenes in Karachi on Tuesday that led to the cancellation of a planned visit to a religious school in the province. Protesters took to the streets after an attack on a madrasa that the government said was being used to train Islamic militants. Prince Charles had hoped to see a madrasa and make a speech on interfaith relations, but it was deemed too unsafe. Stuart McDill, Reuters.
There was a diverse mix of artwork on display on Sydney's famous Bondi Beach on Wednesday. The first, as Australia's annual Sculpture by the Sea exhibition marked its 10th anniversary. Sculptures by the Sea is Australia's largest annual free outdoor exhibition, which showcases contemporary sculpture by 108 artists from 15 different countries.
Australia's annual Sculpture by the Sea competition is getting quirkier every year. It's the 10th year it's been held on Sydney's iconic Bondi Beach, and this sculpture captures the feeling of the hot Australian sun with a melted ice cream truck. This year, 108 artists from 15 different countries contributed to the works. Canadian-born sculptor Orest Kiwan, a previous winner, won again this year with this work called Shifting Sands.
I think it's a great thing for sculpture. It's a great thing for Sydney, for the people of Sydney. It's a great thing for audiences who wouldn't otherwise, be exposed to sculpture, come and look at it without any pressure, in their own way, at their own speed, in a very relaxed manner.
The artworks mix abstract sculptures with quirky ones. The artists use elements of the environment, such as wind, to create innovative designs. But it was quite obvious where one artist got the inspiration for this one, a modern-day Australian outhouse toilet. Renee Bunny, Reuters.
And before we continue to be inspired, here's the weather forecast for Friday, the 3rd of this month. It would remain relatively dry and cloudy, apart from some sunny intervals with moderate to fresh, gusty north to northeasterly winds associated by some isolated rain showers. The minimum temperature is situated at 20 degrees centigrade and a cooler 25 degrees Celsius. That was the weather. Those were our stories. I will see you again tomorrow at the same time. You do stay safe, Macau, and have a good night.
Apesar do